Frankly, this is the wave. Thailand aims to become a high-income country by 2037, but the government needs to overcome multifaceted challenges. World Bank underlines 5 reform priorities to revitalize the economy. And joining now, of course, is Ms. Manuela Ferro, Vice President for East Asia and the Pacific of World Bank. Fantastic to have you on the show. Thank you for your time, Ms. Ferro.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, I think one of the highlights of your trip to Thailand is to meet Prime Minister Srettha was saying. You guys have so much conversation, so much discussion on how to improve Thailand's education, Thailand's quality of education, labor quality, and other significant factors. So just want to understand, what are your suggestions to Thailand's Prime Minister, and what's the feedback there?
We had a very good conversation, and I would say I'm very optimistic about Thailand's ability to meet that goal of high-income country by 2037. It has a lot to go for. It has made tremendous progress in the last 30, 40 years. And in fact, it's one of those countries in this region that, given its location, the assets it has, the potential it has, and also the time where that we're living now, where we see a lot of movement in global value chains, is an opportunity for countries like Thailand. So we talked really about how to seize those opportunities by attracting more investment, which I know is a big priority of the Prime Minister, but also by attracting investment, thinking about what Thailand has to offer. And Thailand can offer a better business environment. It has improved it, but it has more work to do. A labor force that is skilled, educated, and is able to contribute. And we know with the population aging and the desire of the country to move up the value chain, that it needs more engineers, more skilled workers, more services, and then that means that the country needs to invest a bit more in education. We also believe that, and this is a priority of the government, that there's a potential for becoming a greener economy, more better use of natural resources, and we know this is a priority of the country. So we discussed energy transition and renewable energy, and we discussed connectivity as well. We also discussed vulnerabilities, and Thailand is very vulnerable to natural disasters. As you know, with climate change, these natural disasters, in particular flooding and droughts at the same time, really affect the economic potential, affect people's lives, but also set the country back when big floods happen. And 2011 was one big one, and the country really suffered. So reducing those vulnerabilities will require also investment. So we talked about water and water management and reduction of risks to the economy and to the population. So wide-ranging conversation, very productive conversation, and a continued partnership between the World Bank and Thailand.
You point out many important factors there: education, green economy, and Thailand's government's ability to mitigate the flood risk to about climate change and climate resilience ability. That is very important. So in your conversation, have you seen or have you heard any solid development, any solid promises that from the Prime Minister Srettha was saying? Is there any solid development?
I think everything I heard was solid. I would say that there's a real determination to take the country forward. And we have to remember, all these economies have just started to recover from COVID. We had huge shocks. And so countries around the world and governments in this region as well are trying to think about how to stimulate the economy, how to attract more investment, how to take advantage of a growth momentum that is starting to rebuild from COVID. And Thailand is doing that. We very clearly discussed water management and this reduction of vulnerabilities. But the government has priorities that is implementing in a number of areas. Certainly, energy transition and investment in renewables is one of them. I think the desire to, in a way, see the country as an open economy, as an open society, a modernized society, where perhaps a more international country. We ourselves, we at the World Bank, have a large regional office here in Bangkok with 175 staff that work throughout Asia, South Asia and East Asia. And these are all attractions and assets that the country has. And what I heard from the Prime Minister is a desire to build on those assets, even with social modernization, that I think could be helping Bangkok become a platform for more international companies to locate staff here.
And in Southeast Asia too, as you talk about the connection, convergence, and social development until modernization in the society are the priorities of the government here. But of course, we have to talk about the challenges here. Prime Minister Srettha was saying he, of course, wants to revitalize the economy with several stimulus packages. One of that is very non-500 billion baht digital wallet scheme. Do you think this big amount of budget, put it into as a kind of like helicopter money into people's pockets, do you think this policy is efficient in a way to revitalize the economy, or there will be another way, maybe partial budget of this very big amount of budget to put into long-term development? What's your insights?
I think cash transfers, of which this would be a type, can be helpful in an economy, especially when they're targeted to the people that need them most. If you give a cash transfer to the middle class or the upper class, it won't do much. If it goes to the poor, we ourselves in the World Bank advocate for that. People that are vulnerable or had a loss in the family or having a job transition. There are many cases in which a cash transfer makes sense. As a long-term development strategy, it doesn't necessarily work because it can translate into inflation, which then encourages central banks to increase interest rates, which then slow down the economy. And it does have fiscal costs. And if resources were unlimited, it would be one thing. If they're not unlimited, and in most countries they're not, then you need to think about what's the alternative use of those resources. Could I use that to improve the quality of education? Could I use that to invest in my engineering schools? Could I use that to build a port or do flood control in areas that are economically important for the country? So it's really a matter of trade-offs and seeing. It's true, stepping back a little bit, it's true that this economy, having a heavy dependence on tourism, suffered a lot through COVID. And this is a shock that affected the country without the country contributing to it. It's really an exogenous shock. But the best way to recover it, I would say, would be two ways. One is reforms that simplify the ability of companies and firms to do business, to grow, to invest, to create more jobs. And the other one is really going at critical infrastructure that reduces the vulnerability of the country and makes it more efficient.
Yeah. So it means that, of course, this budget could revitalize in the short term, but we would like to see the whole long-term policies from the government to, build up a long-term effect in the future. Next question, of course, getting to your expertise is about this region in East Asia, in Southeast Asia too. Last year in November, you went to Vietnam to meet the Prime Minister of Vietnam there to understand what Vietnam's strength is, the challenges in the country. And right now you're in Thailand, of course. So you see the two countries' differences, challenges, strengths there. So I just want to understand, of course, Thailand is the second largest economy in Southeast Asia. Of course, we're still ahead, but some foreign investors, they might see other countries at this point, including Indonesia, Vietnam, the Philippines, in this region, maybe they would put their new investment in those countries. So other countries, they are catching up. They are trying to improve. So how could Thailand maintain our competitiveness at this point?
That's a very good question. Because especially at this time, we see a lot of interest from investors, and they're looking for a place to land. Where are they going to invest next? And some of this investment is actually coming out of China, trying to address the geopolitical changes in the global trading system. So they're looking for what's the best business environment for me to establish a company. It is true that Vietnam has made a lot of progress in recent years and has been able to attract a lot of investment. It has an increasingly qualified labor force, but it also has challenges. I would say that Thailand has a certain location that is very strategic. It allows the country to connect to Southeast Asia, connect to the north, connect to South Asia. It is true that also Thailand has perhaps a more sophisticated environment and a better ecosystem in electric vehicles, for example. There are certain areas in which Thailand is really establishing itself well. Of course, has a very well-established tourism industry and health sector. So there's a lot to build upon. But one cannot rest on what you have done in the past. You have to plan for the future. And so the question is, how is the government and the country positioning itself to attract more of this investment that is looking for a home? Because there are many countries that after growing quite fast, they plateau. And we would like to make sure that that is not the case of Thailand. This is a time that therefore requires very determined policymaking, very focused and very strategic. And in a way, that is the kind of things that we have been discussing with the government and also with the private sector here. We had a good meeting with the private sector. And there is this appetite and this interest to grow and to do more. It's also a country that, because it's so well connected to several economies in the region, can really invest in that connectivity, right? Through transport links, regional trade on energy, for example, and also digital connectivity. That's another area in which, and I was looking at the price of broadband, it's a bit too expensive here, so need to bring that down. So there are many things that can be done and should be done. Proactive policy making is going to be needed. But I would say people are asking the right questions, and there's a lot of dynamism in this economy as well. So I'm very optimistic, as I said.
Yes, but there are, of course, a lot of challenging parts lying ahead too. One important point you talk about is that you talk to private sector. How about their feedback? What do they think about the ease of business in Thailand? Do they need regulation reforms? Actually, some private sector business leader told me that actually they want to see the fast-paced green transition in supply chain. So what did they talk to you? What did they say to you about the challenging part in Thailand?
In a way, they validate much of the work we have done ourselves in identifying areas that are impediments to doing business. System of licensing, land acquisition, services, how open, how affordable they are, and also the ability to get the labor they need, the skilled labor they need. So we talked about both the population aging and I think the labor force shrinking, but we also talked about how to be able to import the skills you need at the time you need it. And in fact, I discussed that also with the Prime Minister on visas for specialized labor. That is all going to be very important if this economy is to be agile, flexible, and able to take advantage of opportunities when they arise. So there's a whole agenda there of administrative simplification, eliminating licenses that are not necessary, and that just discourage investors from coming to Thailand when others are trying to move faster and step ahead.
Yes. Must be the discouraging part for new investors. If they want to really come into Thailand, they have to go through a lot of bureaucratic rules first. As in, actually, I went to Indonesia a few weeks ago, and I saw then, of course, the improvement of the bureaucratic rules. They erase all the rules there, but Thailand has to keep up at this point. 22nd March is the World Water Day, of course. Marks the importance of fresh water, and right now we talk about the water management and flood risk in Thailand. Of course, you went to Ayutthaya, it's an old capital in Thailand. You went to see the old city, but the most important part is the potential of cooperation with a Royal Irrigation Department to talk about the flood risk, flood management, and water management. So, what kind of insight you got in Ayutthaya? What have you seen there? What have you heard? What's the potential to work together with the Thailand's government on water management?
I think the potential is high, and the benefits would be very high. It makes absolute sense to invest in protecting an important part of your economy and your population from pretty devastating and increasingly frequently floods. So we have over 60% of your GDP in that area, in that basin. You have 78% of your labor force there. And therefore, in addition to caring about the individuals that live there and whose lives are so directly affected by flooding, it also makes economic sense. And so there's a huge and very complex, very ambitious plan to manage flooding. I think that will require resources and know-how. It's not just resources in terms of financial resources, but it's a complex project. So we've discussed ways in which we can support the government and the irrigation department in implementing this plan. This plan is partly underway. We saw part of it. We had very good technical meetings with the department, and we, together with the Asian Development Bank, are thinking about how we can be of help. We are ready to help. We are ready to support the efforts of the government, and we think that this is an investment that, if done only with the government's resources, will take over 20 years. If it's done by pooling resources of others, including our own, can be done in 6-7 years. And that means you save yourself and your population a lot of economic costs, a lot of suffering, because these floods are devastating, and you really improve the quality of life of people. So that's the kind of thing that we've done in the past. Actually, we were involved in this sector in Thailand, and we will be ready to do.
As what you said, it's very important time frame there. Joining force will really expedite the period there, 20 years to 6 or 7 years. Well, there's 13 years there. So we might see a lot of floods if the cooperation wouldn't really work together. But of course, we are very positive about the cooperation between World Bank and the government, but we have to see the progress and the analysis there. Let's give data to my audience. Of course, the 2011 flood caused $46 billion of damages, which amounts to almost 13% of Thailand's GDP. It's a very, very high amount there. And of course, let's see of the flood management part. If Thailand's government would really work with the World Bank on flood risk management. Another good part, of course, is this year actually is the 75th anniversary of the partnership between the World Bank and Thailand. What could we expect in next 2 years? Of course, I understand Thailand would host the 2026 IMF and World Bank annual meeting. Do you think Thailand is ready at this point?
Absolutely. To host the annual meetings for sure. And we have a very long-standing partnership. We are very proud of what Thailand has achieved and how far it has gone from the time when it became a member of the World Bank Group and a shareholder of the World Bank. In a way, Thailand is one of my bosses. But also our duty and our responsibility and our interest is really to make ourselves useful to the country's development. In the first few decades, we did a lot of work on dams, on roads, on rails, on flood management. In this next phase of development, we would like to remain useful to Thailand. And that is what we're discussing now, and that was part of the objective of my visit, is to really think about where are we going to focus in the next few years. As I mentioned, also in recognition of Thailand's location, quality of life, and openness, we established this regional hub in Bangkok that serves the broader Asia region. We also believe that this helps Thailand. It creates a more international feel to the city. We do think that this is an area that Thailand could grow. We believe that this partnership in 2026 can be showcased in very productive ways when Thailand hosts the finance ministers and governors from around the world of the World Bank and the IMF here, and they can see for themselves how far the country has come, what it has to offer. And we will, of course, be pleased to showcase our partnership, and I hope by then we will be showcasing the advancement of this water partnership we discussed and we visited today. So great opportunity for us, but also for Thailand. We hope we'll put all of us our best foot forward.
Yeah, but thank you for the compliment, of course, but we have 2 years to improve until the annual meeting 2026. Thank you for your time today. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and of course, your insight is very beneficial to our audience and Thailand. Ms. Manuela Ferro, World Bank Vice President for East Asia and the Pacific. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.